With the Commanders sitting at 4-8 here in the 2023 NFL season, it seems like it's about the right time here to finally unveil my 1.0 version of the Commanders mock draft for my first mock draft here of this season. Can't wait to share with you guys here in just a second right here on the Commanders Report. But before we get into today's action, make sure you click that subscribe button for NFL draft content for your Washington Commanders all off-season long. We're going to be doing these mock drafts frequently. We're going to be going over each position group of need for the Commanders in detail, breaking down the top prospects here at each of those positions in detail. I'm going to be having my full scouting reports come out as this draft process comes through. So if you want in-depth Commanders draft coverage here during this offseason, it's going to be a massive draft with 5 picks in the first 3 rounds this year. So if you want some draft coverage here for your Commanders, make sure you click that subscribe button right now. So before we get into my mock draft here, first let's discuss the team needs here, or at least the biggest team needs for the Commanders, or at least what I'm projecting are going to be the biggest team needs heading into the 2024 offseason. Now, to me, I think that for sure, all levels of the offensive line need to be addressed here. Offensive tackle eventually, offensive guard right now, and then offensive center right now need to be addressed. Also, edge rusher after trading away both Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Both of those spots need to be filled with starters come next offseason. Then you got inside linebacker. You probably want to put another true starter next to Jamin Davis, Cody Barton, Khaleke Hudson. All these guys are free agents next year. I don't think you're really going to bring them back as true starters. And then tight end, Logan Thomas is fine. But if you can get a really nice dynamic receiving threat for Sam Howell moving forward, I think that's something that you could really do. You could also use a safety. You could also use potentially a slot corner as well. And, I really do think that the Commanders going into the offseason, there's 2 main free agents that I think that they're going to try to re-sign. And those 2 players are Kendall Fuller, the cornerback. Right now he's grading as the 12th highest corner in the National Football League. He's been really a bright spot for the Commanders defense this year with a 79.2 Pro Football Focus grade. Really want to bring him back. And then Cameron Curl. Last year he was the number 2 graded safety, period, in the National Football League. This year, he's ranking 23rd with a grade of 72.1, one of the best true strong safeties in the league. I would really like to bring him back as well this offseason, especially with all the cap space you have to work with if you are the Washington Commanders. Now, let me know down there in the comment section, which position of need do you want the Washington Commanders to target in round 1? Do you want to go get a future left tackle and get an offensive tackle? Do you want to go get an edge rusher to replace Montez Sweat and Chase Young? Or do you maybe want to go get Brock Bowers, the tight end out of Georgia, really special talent? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw in an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Now let's go over the early draft picks here where the Commanders have a very big draft coming up. And I think we as Commanders fans really understand this. You got 5 picks in the top 100, a really great opportunity here for the Commanders. Right now, because you lost to the Cowboys last week, you're sitting within the top 5 range right now, sitting at 4-8 as your record, which gives you a really great opportunity to draft really a franchise-changing type player there in the top 5 in this draft. And also you got 2 early second-round picks, number 36, your pick, and then number 38, the Chicago Bears pick in exchange for Montez Sweat. Then you also get 2 third-round picks, your own at number 70, and then you get the one from San Francisco from the Chase Young trade. Number 100 is currently where that is slated. So without further ado, let's get into it, Commanders fans. My first mock draft of this season. First of many here. It's gonna be a fun ride, but man, I'm really proud of this first mock. And with the first pick here, number 5 overall, I'm gonna have the Commanders take edge rusher Latu out of UCLA. I think this guy has the potential to be a franchise-changing edge rusher and a true number 1 guy pretty quickly, and that's kind of what the Commanders need. When you trade 2 veteran edge rushers at the same time, you need to bring in somebody that next offseason that's ready to go to be a number 1 edge rusher in this league right away. And I think Latu is that. Over the last 2 years, he's been tops in NCAA in pressure rate and sack rate. You take a look at his numbers this year, 28 tackles, 21 and a half of those coming for a loss. This guy is an absolute technician, 13 sacks here in 2023. I believe he leads the NCAA right now in pressure rate as well. This guy's a straight-up technician. He is the best pure pass rusher, in my opinion, in this year's draft class. And this year, Pro Football Focus grade, 95.3. That is tops among edge rushers in the country for 2023. If he would have came out last year, he might have been right up there with guys like Will Anderson, guys like Nolan Smith, guys that were really, really high on my board. Really, really love Latu out of UCLA. And so does Mel Kiper Jr., draft analyst for ESPN. This is what he has to say about Latu. NFL teams crave edge rushers, and there's a case to be made that Latu was college football's best edge rusher in 2022. He ranked first in the FBS in total pressures and pressure percentage at 19.1%, and his 10.5 sacks ranked ninth. He has been just as good this season. He ranks first in pressure percentage, 20.6%. God damn. Third in pressures, 45, and fifth in sacks with 11. This is a little bit, this was released a couple weeks ago, by the way, so the numbers are not updated. Latu is a polished pass rusher who knows how to use his hands and has a knack for slipping by offensive tackles. What I like, too, is that he understands that a sack is great, but a strip sack is even better. He had 3 of those in 2022 and 2 more this season. He consistently disrupts plays behind the line of scrimmage. Now, some of you might be watching this right now and say, Jack, what about an offensive tackle? Don't we need to protect Sam Howell? And the answer to that question is yes. Absolutely, you need to protect Sam Howell. But the Commanders kind of have a problem right now, and that problem is Charles Leno Jr., the current left tackle here in Washington, where he's actually playing okay this season. He's currently grading at a 73.5 Pro Football Focus grade. That's good for 25th out of 84 NFL offensive tackles, so it's far from bad at this point. And then you have to take into account as well the financial situation with Charles Leno Jr.'s contract, which next year he's slated to make $15.75 million in terms of a cap hit. And then if you cut him or if you trade him away, you get $8.25 in dead cap. And I really don't want that to happen, guys. I really don't want to sit him behind a rookie if he's going to be that big of a cap hit. And I definitely don't want to spend a high draft pick on that, because you've got this big contract for a player at left tackle that's already playing pretty decently. So yes, I want to get potentially a future left tackle here that can work behind Charles Leno Jr. here in 2024. There's still plenty of time to draft offensive line in this draft. But when it comes to picking somebody that's going to change this franchise, Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA, is definitely that guy, and I definitely think edge is the more pressing need. You need to get 2, not just 1, but 2 edge rushers next offseason, and you probably need to get somebody in this draft that can step into a number 1 role right away as a pro in the National Football League. So if I'm evaluating the best way to go about using this pick right now, I think it's going and getting an edge rusher here in the top 5 with Latu out of UCLA. So now coming up here, I got my picks for rounds 2 and 3. Got 2 picks in both of those rounds respectively. But first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100 today. If you want to spice up your game days this NFL season, you can get started with Prize Picks today, which is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. And if you're wondering how this works, here's how. You pick 2 to 6 players. If they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projections, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So if we take a look at my entry for this weekend's game for the Washington Commanders here, I think I'm going to go with the more with Sam Howell. I'm going to go with the more with Terry McLaurin and the more Brian Robinson Jr. here. Hopefully the Commanders can come away with a victory, or maybe not. We can get a better draft pick, people. Check it out now at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100 today. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right now. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Now we get into the second round here, and I would love for the Commanders to draft Troy Fautanu, offensive lineman for the Washington Huskies. He spent the first 3 years of his collegiate career playing as a guard, and he's one of the best guards in the country, but this year he's playing at tackle, and he is doing a really good job there as well, currently grading at a 71.4, which is 101st out of 646 NCAA offensive tackles. Mel Kiper Jr. has Fautanu ranked as his 14th overall prospect. He's a little bit lower on Pro Football Focus and Pro Football Network's big boards, which is why I have him falling here to the second round. But here's what Mel has to say about Fautanu. Fautanu has really impressed me this season. He played 114 snaps at guard over the past 3 years, but the majority of his time has been at left tackle, where he has allowed just 2 sacks and 19 total pressures in 26 starts. That's on more than 1,500 snaps. He is a hard-nosed, intense tackle, but he plays under control and has excellent feet and strong hands. I see Fautanu's future at guard as a way to maximize his skill set, but I'm not ruling out that he'll end up at tackle. He reminds me a little bit of Elijah Vera Tucker, who went number 14 overall to the Jets in 2021. Fautanu's versatility will be a huge asset at the next level. Now, my plan for Fautanu here, if I would be in charge of the Washington Commanders after drafting Latu in the first round, I would put Fautanu at right guard right away, kind of take up that Sadiq Charles, Chris Paul spot. I think we all knew coming into the season, neither of those guys was really going to be that dude. I think I've been really surprised. Well, not surprised. I've been really impressed with Sam Cosmi at right guard, and then I'm going to put Fautanu at left guard here right away. And then also, once Charles Leno Jr.'s contract expires, you can move Fautanu potentially over to left tackle if you feel like you want to move him there. Otherwise, if he turns into an all-pro caliber guard, I think that'd also be really good to protect Sam Howell here for the next decade. And then just 2 picks after this one, I'm going to have the Commanders take JT Tuimoloau. All right, so this is another crazy Hawaiian here that we're taking here in round 2. And really, I want to set up an edge rusher duo here that's going to be even better than Chase Young and Montez Sweat was here in Washington, pairing them up with Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen in the middle. Latu's the more polished, ready-to-go NFL starter, whereas JT, in my opinion, is more of the high upside. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He's a fantastic athlete. Of course, comes from a great pedigree here in Ohio State. And I really do think that if both of these guys develop, especially JT here, I think that the Commanders could have one of the best pass rushers in the National Football League within 3 years. This is what Ian Cummings from Pro Football Network has to say about JT. Tuimoloau is just built differently. He's 6'4", 277 pounds, and yet he's an explosive long strider who bounds off the line. Tuimoloau has terrifying power capacity with his burst and length, but he's also surprisingly nimble laterally for his size and has a nose for the football in close quarters. He visibly lacks elite bend capacity, and that might keep him from challenging Verse, talking about Jared Verse from Florida State, for the top edge spot, but as a heavy-handed pass rusher with exceptional pursuit and playmaking ability when tracking ball carriers, Tuimoloau carries a lot of appeal. And really, if you bring together both Latu and JT Tuimoloau here, I think that this would be one of the best edge rusher duos here potentially within 2 to 3 years. Really, you look at the talent of both of these gentlemen. Latu is a technician already. He's going to be really, really good right away, in my opinion, in this league. And then you give JT a couple of years, in my opinion, he's also going to be borderline #1 edge rusher in this league and would be totally worth an investment of a second-round pick. So it might be a little bit of a swing here for somebody that hasn't exactly put it all together in his collegiate career there in Columbus, but I definitely think his pro career could potentially be better than his college career. And then we get to round 3 here. You get a little bit of a break from 38 to 70, and I'm going to have them take the inside linebacker, Jeremy Trotter Jr. Now, it really does depend which big board you look at, where you expect Jeremy Trotter to end up going. Some people have him as a first-round value, whereas, Pro Football Focus right now has him ranked number 76 on their big board. Inside linebacker tends to be more of a lesser value position, which is why I think he falls to round 3 here. But he's somebody that I think could really be used here on the Commanders' defensive middle here, right next to Jamin Davis. This is what Ian Cummings from Pro Football Network has to say about Trotter Jr. At 6 foot, 230 pounds, Trotter is a dense, well-leveraged linebacker over the middle of the field who offers great instincts and awareness for his age. He has a natural feel for how to combat, evade, and bend around blocks, and he's a very reliable tackler with sturdy form and closing burst. He's also weaponized his searing explosiveness to provide pass rushing value. I got one more pick to break down with you guys here in just a second, but first, make sure you like today's video. if you want to help the channel out today. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you're enjoying our content and that they should push it out to other Commanders fans like yourself. So if you want to help us out here, do me a favor, click that thumbs up icon and like today's video. Now we get into round 3. At the end of round 3, the last pick so right now, as it currently stands in round 3, number 100 overall, I have the Commanders addressing the center position here with Zach Frazier. You're going to be putting Troy Fautanu at the left guard spot. You're going to have Sam Cosmi at right guard, where he's been this year. And then I think you can plug and play Zach Frazier, one of the strongest players, period, in this year's NFL draft. I can't wait to see this guy do the bench press at the combine. But this is what Ian Valentino, a Pro Football Network scout, has to say on the West Virginia product. At 6'2" and 310 pounds, Zach Frazier is one of the strongest interior linemen in the country. He may not excel in space as an athletic player who is skilled at making landmark moves on the second level of defenses, but he effectively handles players in front of him, whether in the running game or as a pass blocker. Continues to say here, with the NFL seeing more freakishly athletic defensive tackles enter the league, having a strong man who can anchor in place and require little help is very valuable. Frazier has good awareness and is a solid help blocker. So listen, Frazier is not going to be somebody that's going to be like a Jason Kelsey or anything like that, like a complete freak athlete that's going to be able to pull and do all these crazy movements and get to the second level and really be a great zone blocker, essentially. But he's somebody that's going to be very, very good at pass protection right away in this league, and that's exactly what you need when it comes to having a young quarterback in Sam Howell and protecting this young man for the foreseeable future. And listen, if you can get a starting caliber, day one starting center in the third round here, and at the end of the third round at that, almost in day 3 territory here, sign me up for that, man. I would love to bring this guy in. He might not be the most athletically dominant player that you see, but he's super strong. He's going to have a great anchor. It's going to be tough for any nose tackle or any defensive tackle to bull rush this guy. Bring him in here, man. I think that this would be an excellent pick for the Washington Commanders. Now, there is a big caveat here. Now, if you bring in a head coach or a new offensive coordinator that wants to run a lot of outside zone, wants their center to pull and do all these crazy things that you see teams like the Eagles do or any team in the Shanahan tree, this probably isn't the right fit, right? It has to be a team that's going to be more power-based run scheme, maybe a little bit of inside zone, but definitely you don't want this guy on the move too much. Zach Frazier is definitely much more of a stationary center that's going to be very solid for you, but he's not going to do much moving around for you. So you got to make sure that the scheme fit is right if you're going to take advantage of this steal, in my opinion, here in round 3. So this is my first mock draft for our Washington Commanders here. I got Latu, the edge rusher, in round 1 to completely change your franchise here. Then you got Troy Fautanu, offensive lineman, versatile, can play guard or tackle moving forward for you at the top of round 2. Then you got JT Tuimoloau, who's going to be the opposite side of Latu. Could be a really great combination for years to come. You address the inside linebacker spot with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson, a steal in my opinion if he makes it that far. And then we get Zach Frazier, a day 1 starting center right at the end of round 3. So let me know down there in the comment section. Grade my first mock for the Washington Commanders here. I mean, it's crazy that we're talking draft stuff this early into the season, but when you're sitting at 4-8, man, it's just never too early to get into the weeds here and start preparing ourselves for one of the biggest off seasons in Commanders history. Give me an A, a B, a C, D, or F. Grade my first mock draft down there in the comments section. And thank you guys so much for stopping by today. Make sure you let me know what you guys think of my mock draft. Do you agree? Do you disagree with my decision in the first round to go edge rusher? Let me know down there in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. And then also make sure you join our family today. Click that subscribe button if you want more Commanders draft coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.